recording it because I need to capture it.
Yeah, it's interesting, eh?
Goldhar, Thomas Goldhar, we were talking about your last name,
Yeah.
which is originated in Poland.
Yeah, so actually it was a small town, if I'm correct. It was known as Galicia.
Uh-huh.
I could be wrong about this, so
Yes,
take this with a grain of salt.
That sounds, yeah.
Yeah, but which is now just,
Yeah.
I believe it's now just part of a territory of Poland.
Yeah.
Yeah, it originates from Eastern Europe, and it was just like a village, like a small town. That's where that name originates from. And I'm pretty sure what I was told is that Goldhar was given as a translation for like yellow hair, blonde hair. Yeah.
Because I Google it and it's a har, it's a sound. So it's a gold sound.
Yeah.
So with your profession of being a channel, it's very fitting.
Interesting.
Like gold sound.
Interesting.
You're bringing gold through the sound, which is your speech.
I really appreciate that. I never thought of it that way. And to me, like gold, the color gold to me signifies the divine, like gold, yellow.
Yes.
I know that you could say that white is the frequency of purity, but I also think of gold too, like something really divine, like that golden light that comes down. Yeah, that's cool.
And the sun, gold. Yeah, I totally agree.
I wear gold too.
Me too. I'm only a gold person.
Yes.
Silver is too cold for me, so I can't. Anyway, Thomas Goldhar, life coach, now content creator with a beautiful mission that's so aligned with our podcast here to bring people back to the truth of their soul.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Welcome. I'm so excited to have you here, Thomas.
Thank you. Me too. I'm so honored to be here.
Not only that you have Polish roots, but obviously with what you do, I'm so excited to bring you and share your mission here.
Yes.
Well, let's start from the beginning.
Yes.
You're a channel.
Let's start from the beginning. Yes.
Yes. So I would love to know, we kind of chatted briefly before, but I would love you to share kind of your story, how you started channeling and kind of this transition of the career. And even if you want to share a little bit of the universe that did a 180 on you when you were in LA, I would love to share that story.
Totally. It's a good story. Okay. When I talk about, starting channeling and like opening up to these abilities that involve energy, I think it has to also be talked about in the framework of the awakening, like what truly awakens us to understanding ourselves on a deeper level and to connecting to our reality on a deeper level. And the awakening is something that is happening to all of us to different degrees in different times, right? Like the awakening is an experience that we're all undergoing at an individual level. And it's essentially that process of remembering, waking up to who we are, that we're no longer asleep. And it also means that we're shedding these old identities that are very much tied to an old earth that no longer serve us anymore. Beliefs about who we think we are that keep us rooted and stuck in shame, fear, dissociation, and waking up, awakening to the realization that we're all one, we're all connected. So then it's like an individual process, which, I can talk about my individual awakening and we can even talk about yours. And it's also at a collective level too, that we're all being inspired. So like anyone who's listening to this, you and I, like we went through experiences in our individual life that are still correlated to like a broader awakening that's happening through the entire planet. So, we can put different names to it, but the awakening, I think, is really like what encompasses that experience as a whole, that the consciousness of the planet itself and all those who choose to inhabit it are undergoing this awakening that is really exciting. So that is like the mission of what your podcast is. And that's the mission of what I share, is to help people understand themselves better. And so for me, I believe that I was born very awakened to some degree. And that was a challenge. And it was also a gift that I found myself in a really challenging dynamic growing up with a lot of like family issues at home, a lot of like really tough experiences that like an average kid shouldn't have to go through. But of course, in the awakening, we understand that everything was a choice, that we chose our family, that the karma that we went through was our curriculum. So I went through life early on, sort of not really knowing who I was and accumulating beliefs that would make me feel insecure about being different. but I always had that connection. I always had connection to, but I would think it was imaginary to the divine. I would have, connections to my ancestors and spirit. I would be communicating with spirits, but sometimes I would fall back into the disbelief of, well, it might just be my imagination. So it accrued to a certain point when I was a late teenager where I actually started to have evidence of what I was receiving was real, that it wasn't just like a made up voice in my head. And through the process of life and being connected through a friend, I found a mentor who is still
Uh-huh.
my friend, my family. She's basically my family to this day. And she helped me on that path of really understanding who I was. I needed to hear certain things in order to remember, in order to feel secure in stepping out and understanding this whole topic better. But thankfully, again, our family is no accident in who we choose. And so I incarnated into a family that was
Mhm.
already very in touch with
Mhm.
spirituality. My parents were introduced by my grandfather, my dad's father.
Uh-huh.
And so my grandfather, he introduced my parents at a channeling event that they went to
No.
in upstate New York. Yeah, that's how they met.
And
Isn't
then
that
the
weird?
crazy channel was born.
Yes, I know. Like, you really have to see that like there are no accidents.
Wow.
So, and who knows, that might have been me on the side of spirit, like also, like coordinating this too. I don't know.
Yes. I
But
love it.
yeah, but I do know that was a setup, right? Like
Yes.
that relationship that my parents had, that inclination that was already there, that my grandfather was already really, involved in the spiritual community and
Mhm.
channeling and mediumship. It was no accident. So that kind of set the stage to already like acknowledge this work. And when I was in university, I would take channeled recordings that my grandfather gave me. I would load them onto my phone and listen to them on the subway as I was going to class. I had an hour-long commute there and an hour-long commute back. And so I really like dove into that. But what it took, this was the first awakening,
Yes.
was heartbreak. It was my first
Wow.
real terrible heartbreak where I was having patterns exposed to me that I had inherited from my childhood, like recreating dynamics with my parents. I bet you a lot of it even goes back to ancestral that I may still not even be aware of. And so it was in that like being cracked open that I then was
Mhm.
more susceptible and understanding and seeking the channeled material. But so that kind of laid the framework. And then a few years later, meeting my mentor and already going into that deeper work of, better
Wow.
understanding ourselves, understanding our wounding, how it correlates to our greater purpose, understanding, the ways in which our family dynamics that we grew up in affect us today and really shedding those old layers of identity, those layers of belief. And in that process of shedding, then that was able to set the stage even more for channeling, clearing out the beliefs, being a more open person to this kind of work. And then upon more heartbreak was that's been my lesson in this lifetime, came the real experience of channeling. And it was really at that time, it was seemingly an accident that I wasn't pursuing it. I had loved channeled material. And even my mentor had asked, like, have you ever thought about channeling yourself? But at that point I was 22 and I thought, I don't know, like that would be cool, but I
Mhm.
don't know if that's something I can do. And then it was something that just happened. It was through meditation, through connecting with my emotions and sitting in my body that I started to get like a different um, experience, like a different
Yeah. So
message.
what is channeling? Because
Yeah,
there's psychics, there's mediums, like, but what is like how does channeling work? Like how does it work for you?
totally. So, like, I think channeling has become a big and kind of loose term, and that's okay. But I'll talk about it in more specifics that, you can talk about mediumship, which is connected with
Yeah.
loved ones in spirit on the other side of the veil. And mediums
Yeah.
most often use their five senses. So,
Mhm.
they'll use clairaudience, they'll hear something, clairvoyance, they'll be seeing something with their mind's eye, claircognizance, they'll just know something.
Mhm.
Oh god, I can't remember the other clairs, but there's like clairs smelling, tasting, like they're using their body.
Yeah.
Whereas channeling, for me, I describe it as it's an overlay of information. So depending on the individual, they may go into various depths of trance that some channels
Yeah.
are like fully asleep. they're not aware of what's going on and they don't remember anything. And some
Do
channels,
you remember?
yes, I always remember. And
Got it.
some channels are fully aware that they're just talking, but they're just knowing they're saying things in the right way that need to be heard by the other person, that they don't even know that they're channeling necessarily. So there's like a spectrum, and I would say I lie somewhere in the middle where I can get myself into a trance state, a relaxed state, close my eyes and really focus, and that's when I can do it the best. But again, it's simply the process of opening up your vessel energetically and raising your energy to meet another frequency that is already above us, so that they, whoever it is, these entities come down, we move ourselves up, and in that relaxed state, we meet somewhere in the middle through the consent of our higher self, that they then access our vocabulary, they'll use our memories, our verbiage, our experiences to convey messages that are for the greater good. So that in my experience, when I first channeled that night by accident, I knew that it wasn't a loved one in spirit, because that's what I was more used to, where it felt like a bit more specific to maybe what I was going through. But that night,
Yeah.
it was a message that was for all of humanity. And it was a more removed source that I didn't know who this was. It felt just more omnipresent rather than like, oh, this is my grandmother or this is so and so, right? And yeah.
Do you remember what this first message was about at
Oh my
all?
gosh, that's a great question. Very vaguely, because this was so many years ago, but it was about the evolution of human consciousness on the planet right now. It was about the awakening. And at that point, I wasn't that familiar with that. Again, I had been exposed to it. And so I had asked, I was like, who the hell is this? And and they, a plural being of multiple entities that make up this group, they introduced themselves as Cryon. It's spelled Kryon. And I had never heard of them. I had never listened to them, but I remembered that name, and I brought it to my mentor the next day, who was coaching me already. And she, when I told her this, she practically like flipped the table, because she was so excited, because she had listened to Cryon through another channel named Lee Carroll. And she had just the week before heard this broadcast that Cryon had said, either you listening to this or someone that you directly know is going to start channeling us. And so she was like, my God, it's you. So that was really exciting. That was another instance of confirmation. And so she so graciously coached me and held me, just like helped me hold the space to practice it. And then eventually she started, with my permission, she started inviting people to her home, and we would host these little gatherings and do like a 1-hour channel session. And it kind of grew and grew and grew. And I think it got up to like 25 people at one point. And then this was during the pandemic, so we had issues with, being able to gather. It fizzled out. But then I have to admit, too, that my own human journey got in the way, which we can kind of like eventually segue into that. As part of the awakening, you're still dealing with parts of yourself, parts of your shadow self that you're scared of people seeing, that you're ashamed of. And so I had this fear of being judged. I had this fear of being judged to the point that I would lose my friends, that I would be like an outcast, that this fear of isolation. And so that I really struggled with. And it really took me off the path for a little while. I would kind of go back to it. Then I would leave it. I would really like work and put myself into other careers that I just wasn't aligned in, that it just wasn't working. And again,
because you just wanted to fit.
exactly, like I just wanted to fit in. I literally used the words, I just want to be a normal boy. I just want to be normal. Whatever normal means.
You are a normal boy. But I hear you. Yeah, we kind of chat about it when we initially connected, right? Like I have the same experience, living corporate world and going into this like energy world and astrology and esoterics and now connecting and reading energy, and it is just such a hard experience of like a fear of rejection, because we are, as human being, we are collective, right? Like we are a group animal. And so I totally understand it. I just had like in my own journey, I just remember this, I had this amazing experience, like one of the first people I worked with in corporate world in America. I did energy cleaning for her, and she's like, my God, this is so you. She was like my first boss. she's still in marketing and advertising, and she after the session she was like, "Oh my God, this is so you," and this was like the most healing, like this, like because she was this representation of that world who like totally was like, "Oh my God, this is so you." But I totally get it. It's just so hard because it is that it does feel weird and different, right? And I cannot even imagine, channeling. What is it?
Yeah, Cryon. At that time, it was Cryon. Yeah,
Cry.
like an alien entity. It feels like
So is this like a do you think it's like a consciousness, or are these aliens?
it's a great question. Like I refer to them as a consciousness because I guess when I think of aliens, I think of other beings that are in bodies. You think of like the
Mhm.
look of
The hair
yeah, like
body,
the green skin.
the 3D kind of shape this through the movies for
Yeah,
us.
they're like they have this advanced technology, but to my understanding at least, they are more of a consciousness. There are so many layers to reality and there are so many dimensions that we can exist in, so that they're just in a different dimension. They're in a different state of consciousness where they, again, to my knowledge, they choose not to be in the physical realm, that they don't need to be, that everything is done telepathically. And of course, that is who we are at our core too, like our true selves. We are just consciousness, but we choose to come here as an extension into the physical reality for various reasons. But I also want to like comment on what you said because I so relate to that we both worked in the corporate world while also doing this work. And it feels like you're living a double life sometimes. Like I would be
Yes.
at the office also doing marketing. I'd be at the office from 9 to 5. I'd pack my bag and then I would drive to my mentor's house to do a channeling session. And it was something that I would absolutely not share with anyone at work. Like I was like, they're gonna think I'm insane. It reveals a deeper part of yourself when you have that fear that there's nothing to beat up on yourself about, but it's just an indicator of what beliefs are you holding about this work. And eventually, like if you're living that split life, that dual identity, you eventually have to kind of grapple with that and even make a decision like who do I want to be and how honest am I being with other people. And just like you had that experience with your boss, because people could see it in you, right? Like even if they wouldn't be able to pinpoint it, they could sense something about you.
Yes,
Yeah, I had
100%.
that same experience that I thankfully had a
Mhm.
really nice friendship with my direct superior, and she and I both came into the office early one morning, like probably 40 minutes before the start of the workday, and she was telling me about something really difficult that she was going through in her family life, and I was just kind of gently coaching her through it as her friend, and she looked at me and she was like, "You don't belong here." And I looked at her and I was like, "I know, I don't belong here." And to me, that was
Oh,
the beginning of the end. Like, that is where I really had to
yeah.
acknowledge that as much as I like a steady paycheck, as much as I've been using that experience to even not have to face what fully stepping into my power would be, as much as I was comfortable in that, it was honestly starting to destroy me. And so
Mhm.
that was the turning point of having to let go of that part of my life, that identity. And thankfully now to this day, where she and I, that boss that I had, we're still really close friends. And it was kind of like a coming out, like I'm gay.
Yeah, we were
Yeah, so we
talking
were talking
about
about
it,
this.
yeah.
Yeah, that like, and again, this is all
Yeah.
by choice. Like the soul chooses this. I
Yeah.
chose to have to come out
Yeah.
twice. That fear of being seen was like double amplified. At first, it was the fear,
For
yeah,
you.
fear of being gay, of what that means, that people would see me differently, they would treat me differently, that I would be like sectioned off into a different part of society, which was not true, but that was my fear. And then about 6 or 7 years after that, then coming out of the closet again as somebody who channels, who is connected to something that we can't physically see.
And just, to add to it, I can't even imagine like, doing it twice. But just to that point, I want to highlight that I'm pretty sure that 99% friends or people I knew in the corporate world, if I went to them and said it
Mhm.
openly, hey, I am reading and healing energy right now, they would be like, no way, that's awesome. A lot of this fear is
Yes.
in me. Like I'm pretty sure I would be accepted, and I am already accepted, but it's like this barrier with
Hmm.
us, which is not made up. It's probably somewhere, right? based on this experience of rejections as a child and this fear that we felt from then. But I feel now with, awakening that we talked about, that, a lot of people I think experience, a lot of this fear is within us. Like, I think I can only speak for myself. So I just want to say that it's not like I'm scared because they won't accept me. I'm scared, but I think they will totally accept me.
Yeah, no, I think you're so right. It's all created inside of our mind, right? And then our reality only molds itself based on our beliefs. So then we might create experiences where we're rejected or where people judge us. But you're right, most of the time people are actually really receptive to this, even if like you don't think that they would be, right? But it's actually again, I'll speak for myself that it's the one who is afraid of being judged and casting that fear onto their environment is actually the one judging, because they're not seeing the truth of the reality that they're in. They're creating it from their mind. So yeah, I bet you my coworkers too, just like yours, would have actually been really interested in it. Like maybe I could have led like a mindfulness workshop, a meditation seminar. I probably could have, and they would have been open to it. But to me, that felt like certain death. That if they knew who I was, and like I would be an outcast.
And we are judging this within us still.
Exactly.
That's the judgment you are talking about, because I still don't fully accept it within
It's all
me,
a mirror.
because it's for me, still also very new, right? Like it's very,
yeah,
it's so interesting. But to that point, I just want to share one healing story with you. I had a conversation. I'm going to have one of my next guests is man who does Kabbalah tarot readings.
Okay.
And he is still a creative director in an agency. And he tells me that each year, like around Halloween, he opens his office and he does only this Kabbalah tarot readings. And he has a line in his agency through like hallways. Like everybody wants to get this reading.
Is beautiful.
So, like we're talking about this fear, but he's like, "What are you fearing of? Like this is like one of the most open-minded communities out there. Like world is more open-minded right now." But he was telling me like there is a line of people to him like doing the Kabbalah tarot
It's incredible.
reading.
It's incredible.
Which is probably his side hustle.
It just shows you that when you're courageous and you step out as yourself, that you're not afraid to be seen anymore. Well, let me rephrase that. You may still be afraid to be seen, but the definition of courage is to do it anyway with fear. When you show yourself that it's possible, you actually will be surprised, like in the case of this man, but B, like think about how many people you're helping, that you are providing the lived example of what it means to be yourself and to feel safe, to show up as yourself, to go to your corporate job and offer something that is, a little out there, a little different to maybe some of these people, but that a lot of the awakening that we go through, it has to be done through example. It has to be seen from somebody else doing the same thing. And that's what the point of your podcast is. That's what the point of what I'm doing is. It's sharing it, normalizing it. You know, offering
100%.
our courage and our truth.
100%. Okay, so let's go back to channeling. Okay, so we know who you're channeling, but how does it work, right? So are you like going into trance, or you said you were pretty aware, you remember, and then the messages are just coming through you, and you can channel for one person, right? You can have a one-to-one. I can come to you with a question. We kind of talk about when maybe we'll do another episode when we can just do channeling, so it's not weird and chopped off, and you can channel like a general message. Just tell me more.
I know there's so much to explain here. Okay, so I offer one-on-one sessions, and I can tune into different beings. Like I started with Cryon, which is a collective consciousness that exists non-physically, and a lot of their work has to do with the greater ascension of the consciousness on planet Earth and what the greater like design is that's occurring here as being human. But what I find is even more powerful, that people generally really get a lot from, is doing soul readings. That if it's a one-on-one session, I really love to offer soul readings, literally connecting with your higher self and being able to tap into the eternal part of you and offer you a chance to have a conversation with your true self, to get guidance on what you're needing to work through, what you're needing to see, release, your patterns. It could be your your ancestral patterns that are being replayed. A lot of people, what comes up in sessions is dynamics with the relationships. So dynamics with their parents, with their siblings, with romantic relationships. We talk a lot about karmic contracts, about how to clear that, and ultimately like getting to the root that everything is happening for you, that you are the creator of your experience. So it's always empowerment, right? And so it's
Mhm.
really beautiful to see the transformations that happen in people when they are truly seen, like really seen for who they are, and given a chance to share what's most important to them and to hear what they need to hear. What I would say is it's not a psychic reading, that it's not predicting your
Mhm.
future, because first of all, we live in a realm of limitless possibilities that it's hard to
Yep.
predict, right? That if you get guidance, that you may then decide to change your reality. But in the same time, we have to respect free will. So that sometimes people come in wanting just predictions, answers, like to be told what to do. And the thing with channeling, I would say no matter who you're channeling, but that if you're channeling an entity, a being that is of a high degree, they'll never tell you what to do.
Mhm.
They just help you reframe what you're working with what you're seeing about your situation. They help bring you to a higher perspective so that, again, you can do what you came here to
The
do. Yeah,
outcome.
to have free will, to have choice, to be the creator in this reality in the physical realm, and to create it as you wish. So again, they'll never tell you what to do or where to go, but it's always about empowerment to see yourself and your situation more clearly. That's what I would say. Yeah. And so, okay, so one more thing to add too is then when I go into messages like on TikTok, I have a page there, on Instagram, Thomas underscore channels. Um,
And I'll link it.
that I would say is, it's obviously me, it's an essence of who I am, but it's also Christ consciousness. It's like it's the frequency that is pure love, pure understanding, unconditional forgiveness. So when I even put out videos on YouTube or in my courses, they are more directly channeled, like a bit more into that trance state. And to me, that is Christ consciousness. That it's a tricky thing to say for some people because it's the teachings of Jesus, which is true unconditional forgiveness and love.
Love.
Exactly. But it has nothing to do with Christianity, with religion. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah, I think there's like this like a weird connotation that we right away get when you say Christ consciousness. Like for me personally, even coming from Catholic Church, coming out of it, it's still just like when you say it, it means nothing else to me than
Yeah.
unconditional love, which includes the compassion, forgiveness, and all the flavors of
Exactly.
it. But it still have this like because of the religion, because of the church. I feel like it's not seen as just broad because it was just siloed for us in some level, on weird
Exactly.
level.
No,
But
it's and
anyway,
it's interesting. Like I agree with you on that it gets so distorted in the framework of religion,
yeah.
in that I had a really interesting conversation with this friend of mine. I would consider her a friend, but she's also my haircutter. I go to her for my haircut. And
Oh my God, my hairstylist is like one of like the conversations we have. I'm probably going to talk about you when I go to him. Like he's one of the wisest people I
yeah,
know, and our conversation just range of like religion, politics to like drugs
yeah,
and alcohol and addiction and all
yeah,
everything in between.
totally.
Yeah, yeah,
When
yeah.
you're when
Go
you're in
ahead.
that chair, it's like you're there for an hour, so let's
Yes.
get to it. No, but I had an interesting conversation with her recently because she's a Jehovah's Witness. And so I wanted to know more about that. I don't know a lot
Ooh.
about Jehovah's Witness. And so we were talking about Jesus because, I had been connecting with Jesus in the sense of, the spirit realm, and she follows Jesus in the context of religion. And I asked her kind of an intense question, but I said to her before, I was like, listen, I won't be offended by how you answer this question because I take everything with a grain of salt. But I said, like,
Yeah.
what is your perspective on being gay in the context of a follower of Jesus and being in that religion? And, she told me her experience of being in that religion, which is that if you're a follower of Jesus, if you walk in his name, that being gay is a choice, that ultimately you're not honoring Jesus if you are gay. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what I understood.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Specific
and that
eyes.
was, like, really interesting to hear, and not gonna lie, it stung for, like, a few seconds. I was like, "Oof," like, it's this invalidation that someone else can have a connection with Jesus based on something that they can't control, that really isn't a choice, right? It's a choice from the
Yeah.
soul perspective, like, yes, I did choose to come here and in this identity be gay, but I did not consciously
Yeah.
choose to just do that. But I had to
Yeah.
see her through the unconditional eyes of love and forgiveness that Jesus would. That if we are connecting with Jesus, then how could I judge another who connects with him too? That if I'm to judge another for judging me, then I am the one who is judgmental here, right? So it's
Mhm.
really like living in those practices that even if someone may not see you or understand you, have a different belief that even like discounts your connection, you have to still see them in the eyes of that true compassion and understanding, because I think that's what it's all about. That there are no guidelines and rules to who can be in connection with a higher power or with the divinity of Christ. It has nothing to do with being gay or not. Again, I would never try and change your mind. I had no like point to make. I just wanted to understand. And again, that's why we're here in the physical experience. We're here having a lot of contrast, a lot of different opinions, a lot of people who have different beliefs, and you can't judge that. You can't.
Yeah.